All right, good morning. Introduce yourself and start with your presentation.
Yes, hello, good morning. My name is Dr. Lacey Tillman.
Speaking to the mic.
Yes, good morning. I'm Dr. Lacey Tillman with the New Orleans Health Department. I'm the Chronic Disease Program Manager.
Okay. So you're going to just tell us about the agreement. Are you prepared to discuss it or answer any questions?
Yes. The agreement allows the New Orleans Health Department to utilize some very beneficial platforms to help with our new diabetes prevention program that we launched in February. And we currently have 2 cohorts. We have one that operates here in City Hall, another at Edna Pillsbury Health Center. And we are wanting to be a part of their new Diabetes Partner Alliance. It's a network of organizations that are targeting 6 states which have very high risks for diabetes. Here in Louisiana, the numbers are pretty staggering. We have 11% prevalence rate of diabetes. In New Orleans, it is 13.6%. And nationwide, nearly 98 million people have pre-diabetes. So that's the target of this program. We're targeting pre-diabetes, trying to delay and prevent the onset of diabetes here in the city.
Okay. And how much is the contract?
No cost.
That's even better. All right, any comments from? Yes.
Yeah, I would love the American Diabetes Association to come and present on exactly what they're going to be doing, because I'm just very interested on some of their prevention initiatives.
Of course, that would be wonderful. In fact, the vice president of the ADA, she's going to be visiting in April.
Oh, wonderful. I'd love to see if we can schedule her into a council meeting. I think it'd be good information to get out, and I just want to learn more about this program.
Of course, ma'am.
Thank you.
And is that with is it the Kiss the Pig? There was a fundraiser where you raise money for awareness. Is that with the ADA, do you know?
Not that I'm aware of, no. We're using just primarily program funds right now to fund it. It's free of charge to the...
Well, no, not this. I believe there's a large fundraiser.
Oh, okay.
Where the winner kisses a pig or something. I'm not sure. I just...
We're going to look it up.
Yeah. Any other comments? Okay, so yeah, this would be great. Bill passed. We'll make a motion to adopt this and move it to the full council for approval. Second by Councilmember Moreno. All in favor? Say aye. 3 yeas, no nays. This will be moved to the full council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
That diabetes, also known as the sugar.
For the American Diabetes Association.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's a big fundraiser. Okay, next we'll have a presentation by the Center for Employment Opportunities, also known as CEO, Ms. Chantrice Bailey and Ms. Lewis Walker. Your services are needed in the city.
Okay, so we were having some technical issues we're trying to fix for you guys. We can get started. Good morning, my name is Chantrice Bailey. I'm the director on the ground at Center for Employment Opportunities in New Orleans.
Hi, my name is Patience Lewis Walker. I am the Deputy Executive Director for Southern Region at Center for Employment Opportunities.
So I know you, I'm sorry.
Good morning. Jade Brown Russell. I am a consultant with CEO and supporting them today.
Good morning. Of course, I'm Anthony Davis, Director, Department of Code Enforcement.
Ariane Patton, Chief of Staff of Code Enforcement.
Okay, I think saying use the arrow button. So in case you guys don't know, CEO provides immediate, effective, comprehensive employment services exclusively to individuals who are formerly incarcerated or first returning home from incarceration. Our program not only reduces recidivism, but we reduce recidivism by helping our participants regain the skills and competence needed to be successful in transitioning into stable, productive lives. CEO has an evidence-based program that models and helps participants regain the skills, the competence needed to be successful in a transition while transitioning into the workforce. CEO starts off with a 2-day paid orientation where we prepare participants for training, for working and training with CEO. From there, we do 2 things. We do our transitional work crew, where participants are working 3 to 4 days a week and getting paid every day while they work. During that paid orientation, during that paid training, they are also being modeled on how to return back to work. They are receiving mentoring from the site supervisors that are there. They are getting on the job training. They are learning how to come to school, come to work on time, to wear the proper uniform, the importance of being there and showing up for work, and also how to start listening to site supervisors and managers as they get into the real workforce. While they're working at 3 to 4 days a week, while they're on their transitional crew, they're also coming into the office 1 day a week, where they're working specifically with our job coach and our job developer to help them develop the skills they need to not only build up their resume, but to learn how to go back on an interview, to get some financial literacy and support, to learn how to budget, to learn how to dress appropriately for interviews, to find out what skills they're really interested in while they're doing that, and then our job developer connects them with employers directly for long-term employment. After they are placed on a job, CEO doesn't believe in we're just letting you go. We connect with that participant for another 365 days just to make sure, one, that we place you on put you in the right path, place you on the right employment, and making sure that that career is working for you. Because again, the goal of CEO is not finding you a job, it is finding you a career that is long-term and stable.
I'm not sure if you covered it, exactly what type of employment does a CEO do?
Right now, we are doing a lot of beautification, landscaping, grass cutting, litter and debris pickup throughout the state of Louisiana. And historically, we have done blight removal, blight remediation for the city of New Orleans. Grass cutting, the Lower Ninth Ward was a big project we had, Tulane University. We actually did some houses that you're going to see a few slides of that we refurbished, just some painting on, et cetera. We can do also light janitorial work as well.
And that's why I asked Mr. Davis to come and also sit down, and we know his office in code enforcement, the code enforcement office has hit the ground running since he's taken over and has done a tremendous job throughout the city. And I can speak specifically for District C, East and West Bank, maintaining overgrown lots, knocking down homes or knocking down houses. Mr. Davis, if you can explain how this would help, this CEO would help your office as far as resources and manpower so you can focus on other things.
Okay, good morning, Council. Good morning again. Yes, so right now, Department of Code Enforcement, we abate nearly 7,000 lots a year throughout the city, and the work is still remain great. And we can't get it enough. We can't get it done because of lack of resources and other things. So certainly this manpower plus up would certainly benefit the department. For instance, just in the Lower Ninth Ward alone, we had to dedicate some resources, but when we have to dedicate resources in the department as it stands currently to one location, another area of the city suffers in being able to do that. And so just from this past Super Bowl alone and the work that we did in the Lower Ninth Ward with grass cutting and things of that nature, we spent nearly $700,000 just abating lots in the Lower Ninth Ward. So a partnership with CEO Works or something of that nature could certainly benefit the department, because we could put those resources to work in the Lower Ninth Ward alone, because there are thousands of lots that are unkept in the Lower Ninth Ward. But at the same time, the department could focus its efforts on other areas of the city that are equally important as the Lower Ninth Ward, particularly when we're trying to align resources to take care of public areas, schools, and things of those natures that we've prioritized in the department. And so certainly, again, the department could certainly benefit from the added manpower and put them to good use.
So you spent $700,000 just on the Lower Ninth Ward this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how much is CEO asking from the city?
Right now, we're asking what is it?
Each of our work crews operates for about $250,000 for a year, so that's 5+ days of work full days, 6.5 hours a day per crew. We could provide 5 to 6 crews if necessary to deploy in the lower ninth or any other part of the city, just based on the need. We're able, really nimble, can move, even within a week's time or so to be able to provide the support wherever it's needed most.
So what I'm trying to get is, if we spent $700,000 in one part of the city in a few months, it seems if the number you all are asking for, if it's feasible, if it makes sense, we should do it, because 700 can't go around. We can't do that in every part of the city, but if you all can give us a number so we can get 6 crews, that's 1 per district plus 1 crew, it'd be very beneficial. That's why I want to know that number, so we could just kind of do some cost analysis on what makes sense.
Yes, that's correct.
And so you said $250,000 per crew?
Per crew, yes.
And
And that
is-
would be based on whatever the need is. If code said they needed 7 crews, we could ramp up to provide 7 crews. If they needed 5, we could do that. So that's just a ballpark of what it costs for
Sure.
each crew. Each
Okay.
crew has about 7 or 8 individuals. It has a site supervisor. We transport our participants to the work site every day. We ensure that you have the proper numbers of people to do the job, so there isn't really a lapse in productivity. And we're able to like I said, to be nimble. We transport. That includes all of our insurance. We pay our participants directly, so there's no burden on the city to do anything except, we invoice you for the work that's done
Yeah.
consistently monthly.
So 4 crews, that's, 3 crews, that'll be pretty much what was used to do just a little night walk. That'd be for the entire year, not the first quarter.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so I don't want to continue asking questions. You done with your presentation? You have more to present?
We can do either way. If you just want to have a conversation, we're
I see
open to
Councilmember
that.
Harris wants to jump in.
Thank you, Councilmember King. Thank you for being here. I know that we've been talking on and off since I've been in office, about CEO Works and getting you connected with the city. So I'm glad that you're here today, especially with Director Davis. My question is on wages. I know we talked about this privately. We have a $15 minimum here at the city, and I see here it says average wage at job placement for fiscal year 24 is $13,742. I just want to make sure that if we execute a contract with you all, that the participants are getting at least that minimum, because we certainly don't want to go underneath what the city normally pays, what the city's $15 minimum is.
Yeah, I think when it comes to this work experience is really a transitional work job, and so our participants are only engaged in that crew as long as they need support from CEO to become ready to start full-time permanent employment. And so for us, because the average at placement is $13.74, when we're paying our participants the city's minimum, which 100% we agree with and is admirable aspiration, but it becomes more difficult for us to have folks to transition off of our crews and into a longer term job at that $15 an hour rate, because we very much see it as transitional. The other piece is that our participants are receiving SNAP employment and training benefits, and sometimes, that larger wage keeps them from receiving that food resource and benefit that they need when they're starting up. So it's just a little bit of a difficult kind of numbers game, if you will, when it comes to, the minimum and where we are. We can for sure talk about, numbers that get us closer to the 15.
Yeah.
But just operationally, we've learned that it's just more difficult. So we're able to serve the number of people we are because individuals are rolling through our program at their own pace, right? And so they come into us. We have some people that are closer to being ready, and in a month or so, they're rolling off. We find them permanent employment. They're successful in retention, great. We have some, though, that it takes a little bit more work and support to get them there, and so the number of people that are on those crews really determine how many people we can serve over a year's time. And so in order to keep our kind of folks filing through to serve more people who need it, we just have to keep that transitional work kind of wage at an amount that works for our participants, but also helps them to be able to, see the value in the transition to a full-time job beyond CEO. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It just gives me a little heartburn to think that, these folks who are coming, they're formerly incarcerated, and they're not making the minimum, especially if the contract's with the city, right? So I'd like to have that discussion about how we get them closer to that amount without impacting benefits. I get impacting benefits. We don't want to do that, and we certainly don't want to have more working poor, right? And we want to make sure that they're successful in transitioning perhaps to the city full-time, which is, the goal. But, just when I see $13.74, even $1.50 can impact somebody's day-to-day life. You think about how much it costs to get on RTA, and I know you provide transportation, but, every dollar counts, especially in this economy.
And actually, the $13.74 is the average of their wage once they leave CEO.
I see.
So that's kind of the going rate for employers, for folks in our program and people in that kind of skill set when it comes to employment. So our average participant, once they leave CEO, that's the average wage that our participants are making is $13.74 outside of CEO.
How much do they make inside CEO?
Are we at
11.
We're at 11.19.
Yeah, certainly. I think that conversation needs to be had about how we get them closer to the city's minimum, especially as they're coming out of incarceration and needing every amount of money, all the amount of money that they can get. I also want to point out that last week we heard during a criminal justice meeting folks who were formerly incarcerated who were desperate for a job. And certainly we said the city is hiring, but how do people get connected with you all? How do you do outreach?
Okay. Yeah, we right now partner with a lot of our local community partners, also with probation and parole. Also, we get direct referrals from DCFS, so the people who do like the benefits. We get all those all the time. We also do walk-ins. People walk in. I mean, patients came in town. We had 3 people just sitting there this morning who walked in. We do orientation probably like every 2 weeks. The more we ramp up, the more crews that we have, the more often we can do orientation. They do orientation, they're paid, and they immediately start working. So they can either come to our location, go through any community partner, go through their probation and parole officer, or just walk in.
Are you connected with criminal court or the sheriff's office at all?
We do attend the largest court.
Yeah.
We do attend there on a weekly basis with Troy. We connect with Troy, but we're not connected with the sheriff's office directly.
That's a building
We
audience.
have been working on that relationship and talking to people in the DRC.
I think one of the reasons why it's really important to have this conversation too is that we're only able to serve the number of people based on that crew-based work experience. And so not having crews means there are people that we can't serve. Right now we have a waiting list of about 70 people.
Oh, wow.
So that, really drives it. So people are waiting, and that's, as people are rolling off, we're able to bring new people in and have that orientation class that Chantrice mentioned. But the need in New Orleans is huge. And with the work that we have now, we're just serving as many people as we can, as fast as we can. But we have 70 now waiting, and the people who, may not even know we're here or, haven't come in yet, that's a lot of our concern is like, how do we serve more people? We know that our program is successful. We know that we have the ability to really give folks an opportunity for social and economic mobility when it comes to returning home. We're positioned to do a really good job, and we just need that resource to be able to serve more people, honestly.
Well, thank you, and I'm happy to, after all these years, reconnect you with the city, and hopefully we can get forward with this.
We definitely appreciate
We
your
appreciate it.
support.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Moreno. Before that, I want to acknowledge that we are joined by Councilmember Green.
Thank you. First, I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing, and I very much support what you're trying to do. My questions are in line with what Councilmember Harris was talking about, and it's the wages. I'm also wondering, too, and I certainly understand what you're saying about, this is one step towards getting a higher payer job down the road, but this is more of a transitional type of job. But I'd like to talk about maybe creating a pathway between the entry jobs that we're seeing here with you all and pathways to them getting employment within the city. So specific, training that could potentially be provided. We're looking to, of course, constantly hire people at DPW. We can't find enough people. Code enforcement, I know you need more people, Anthony. Director Davis, sorry. And so, I think that I could have a better feeling about the fact that we would have to do a waiver on the living wage part of contracting with you all if I knew that there was a specific pathway to them getting employed within the city if we develop the right type of training programs. Because then I would know that they would be, the end route would be, now you have a job with the city where you are getting paid at least $15, and you're going to be able to get health benefits and things like that.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if we could figure out a way to do that.
That is the ideal situation for us, actually. Like, ideally, what happens for us is individuals are on that work crew, they're working with code enforcement, the team sees that we have some folks that are really well positioned and doing a great job, and the transition should be seamless. We offer several advanced training pathways. I think we forgot to mention this, but we offer participants who are interested in getting their CDL, if they're interested in a welding license, if they're interested in construction, we're able to really connect them to kind of lift that advancement as it comes to their career path and trajectory. And so that's something that we would absolutely love to partner with the city with, is creating a pipeline. That is the best case scenario for us. We place people wherever, we can find them employment, that's a good fit for them, that aligns with their interests, but the very best case is we have these crews working with the city, and our participants are, first top of mind when it comes to hiring. And they have worked in this space, so they know they enjoy the work, and they like it, and they understand the culture, and the city understands, who they're working with. And so it's just really a good kind of, for lack of a better term, like OJT kind of a situation. But that would be ideal for us, is for our participants to have really great wages, have the benefits. And, I think being a government employee says a lot about, them, as well as the city's stance on, what we want to see when it comes to, what we're investing in, people, programs, and really, kind of backing that up with that level of commitment. I think that would be amazing, and we are 100% here for that.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they're working with CEO, you guys know exactly what areas we'll be in. It also gives code enforcement a chance to go out and observe the work, observe the participant, see the participant working, seeing the progress they made, so that when all these positions that are open and they're ready to hire, they already know that, throwing the name out there, Sam is excellent. He comes to work every day. He does the work. He shows those leadership skills. He's ready to go, and we're ready to pull him on with the city. So it's a good way to not only see the training as it's happening, but see the workers as the work is getting done and know exactly who you want to pull on your team.
Yeah, you make a really good point, and about the the city being ready to hire and finding the right people. Unfortunately, sometimes we just don't have that right connection of, hey, I've got the right person, but this person isn't meeting certain criteria, therefore we can't hire them. So that's where we would really need to have that pathway very structured of, Helena is now part of this program, I'm just saying my name, but like Helena's now part of this program, and Helena, if she's going to be hired by DPW, these certain things need to be met by Helena. So let's make sure that we provide Helena with the right educational opportunities to hit these marks, because her pathway for a long-standing job or employment is going to be with DPW. The end of her finishing these educational benchmarks or whatever I need to do, these certifications, whatever I need, is going to be this job that's going to pay X. And so now I'm looking at this like, wow, I'm taking these steps because the end result is me getting this high-paying job with benefits working for the city, which is also a huge benefit for the city of New Orleans, getting these well-trained, ready-to-go employees that obviously will already proven themselves to be great workers because we've seen them on the job.
Yes.
So I think if it's possible, I would love for Jade to find, time for all of us to kind of reconnect and figure out how do we How do we build this?
Okay.
Okay?
I would love, yeah, that would be great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Green.
Good morning, and thank you
Good
for having
morning.
this written presentation. It gives me a little bit to review later on. Could you tell me about your work with DOTD in the city?
We're currently working with the OTD in the city. We did some areas for the state. We do District 02, which is I-10. A lot of I-10 work right now. Right now, we're in the east. For the Super Bowl, we launched 8 crews to help with Super Bowl cleanup throughout the city for Super Bowl. And right now, we're working in New Orleans and the Baton Rouge area, and all the cities in between of those areas. We have 6 crews currently running, working in between those areas, doing a lot of litter abatement on the highways and keeping the highways clean.
How do you get your assignments?
DOT.
I'm going to tell you what my background is. I'm very critical of, even though I like the guy Scott Ball of DOTD, and their lack of work under the interstates in New Orleans, whether it be cleaning up a homeless encampment, even if it's not decommissioning it, but also, for example, on Wednesday morning, we'll be cleaning up under the I-10 exit off Orleans Avenue. All of that is state. All of that is state. And I think that we as a city need to be a little bit more critical of the state, recognizing that there's a very sincere individual there who I think wants to help. But I'm curious as to how your assignments are done when we have in the city, for example, so many areas under the interstates that are not well maintained, that come under the jurisdiction of DOTD. Do you ever get those assignments? Or did you just get them for special events such as the Super Bowl?
So they basically don't give us specific spots, but they will give us, say, like, you have to do I-10 from, say, one spot to New Orleans East, and then we will cover that entire area as we put the crews out there to get the work done. So yes, we have done underneath bridges. We have one day cleaned up an encampment. We have pictures that can show all the work that we've done in those areas. We picked up pounds and pounds and trailers of tires from certain areas in the city, so that has done. But as we rotate through the city, a lot of times, a lot of it is a lot of trash is put back in those same areas. It's highly populated areas that need consistent cleanup, so we're just out there as much as we can every day getting it done.
So it's based on what you've observed or what somebody has called in, or how do you decide that?
No,
Because I wanna
we
give you
just start the route from beginning to end every time we do it.
Okay.
And this is a new contract for us. We just started just right before Super Bowl, so we're still learning that process as well.
I'm going to put in a special couple of requests then, if you don't mind making a note. Since you all kind of go to the areas where there is a need, right? Mm-hmm. Under Interstate 10 from I-610 to Elysian Fields is a terrible mess. Interstate 10, I-610 to Elysian Fields, and down ramps off the interstate are a mess. That's all. Since
And
you all
Councilman, I
decide.
think also, I'm saying this with them, but I think that if you have specific, issue areas, definitely reach out to them. If it's on their route, they can definitely have the conversation with DOTD and figure out ways to really work collaboratively in that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the reason that I ask is because that's what these meetings are good for. When I see DOT on here, I didn't know that you all worked with DOT. And it may help me to get some of the work done that needs to be gotten done, because there are some areas under the interstate that this is getting in the middle of something that's a little bit more political than you have to get involved with. I just want to clean up. But I think that our entire city forgets that everything under the interstate comes under the jurisdiction of DOTD.
Yeah.
But yet the city, for example, Wednesday morning will have police and labor crews out that have sanitation uniforms on them cleaning up under the interstate by the down ramp of Orleans Avenue, near North Durbany Street. I see that all the time, and knowing that you all are there, I will certainly contact you and let you know that in addition to, what you might be looking at, there are some specific areas. So I'd appreciate your help there, but you will hear from me on specifics, and then just let me know if there's something that I need to do to get to the DOTD, because all of these areas where there are so many massive numbers of tires off the interstate, they come under DOTD. But yet so many times we're cleaning them up. with our own sanitation crews, which are stretched far enough. So that's all. It's not on you all, but I'm glad to know this, and that's what these meetings are good for. So I appreciate that community development, and you all gave me something in writing so that I know that. All right?
Thank you, yeah. Please
All right.
contact us.
And I look to Mr. Davis and say thank you for your
Yes, sir.
continuing work. I have a special request for you.
Yes, sir.
611 La Harpe Street. It's on its way down. You're probably familiar with it.
sir.
But there's a park next door that they're going to be opening in the next 2 weeks. Let's let the kids and the residents see something a little different. But I say that because it's
Gotcha.
just an opportunity.
We got you.
Thank you for the recent demolitions. The communities are feeling so good.
Yes,
The
sir.
church that is pastored by Reverend Boutin,
Yes, sir.
Bishop Boutin, right
Yes,
next
sir.
door to him, he said his parishioners came there and they had seen that property for so long in disrepair. He probably told you that. He couldn't believe it was coming down.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the work
You're
that the
quite
Department
welcome,
of
sir.
Code Enforcement does. Difficult work, making our communities better through the reduction of blight.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman.
No problem. Then you have some slides you want to share with us? Okay, they're up to now. Okay.
Yeah, those are some of the properties we did when we were working with, we had a study with Tulane that showed that if you can take and beautify areas, clean up the areas, make sure you get rid of all the blight, keep the grass cut in those areas, how to reduces crime and severity, and makes the community feel like a community again. And so this is a very good study done by Tulane University that showed that crime really did decrease as we kept up the maintenance and the community and the housing in the area. And these are just some of the before and after pictures of some of the houses that we touched and some of the blight that we did and some of the litter that was removed from those
Yeah,
areas.
definitely a direct correlation between blight, overgrown grass, overgrown lots, and crime, absolutely. I did have a picture, if you can pull it up, a hot spot that I think we talked about CEO tackling over on the West Bank. Now, sometimes things are out of sight, out of mind, and this is, for those who don't know, Brechtel Golf Course that has not been, we recently cut it. This was a recent cut, and a few months later, we're in the middle of spring, this is what you have. So the grass is basically between my hips and my chest. And this is the middle of April. So I'm sure by August, it'll be tall as me. And this is right across from Walmart on Berman. If you enter, this is the first thing you see when you enter Orleans Parish coming from Jefferson, or the last thing you see when you're leaving Orleans going to Jefferson. So this is a major 100 acres of land that I think would be helpful if CEO could, if we can get something worked out, you can keep a crew maintaining this, because Parks and Parkways paid somebody about $400,000. I'm sorry, no, 40,000.
I'll do it for $350.
$40,000 to cut it. They did a great job, but 5-6 months later, you have this. And I'm sure $40,000 is going to increase because everything is going up. So we may spend $100,000 just on maintaining this, and we can take that money, put towards CEO, and have this maintained year-round. And I'm not just speaking for myself. We have 5 district council members. I'm sure they would love to have a crew in their area, specifically in the area. And of course, we get everything worked out, but to say, look, I have a call on Felicity in I don't know, St. Charles, but there's no blight on Felicity in St. Charles. But I'm just saying, if there was some blight or some overgrown grass, they can take care of that, or in Councilmember Green's area. So let's not let what is good be the enemy of great. Figure out the numbers as far as the wages go, how we give people a working, competitive wage. I heard Vote come in last week. They said they had people who work for 2 cents an hour in jail. So they would love to get a job paying more than that, $11 an hour. But if we can get it higher to closer to that $15 an hour minimum that the city has, that'd be great. And it also takes some pressure off code enforcement so they can look at bigger projects like the Gall Manor in Algiers. Put the heads down now. Or what's this Plaza Towers over here. That'll loosen up their ability to look at bigger projects. We can get these small, minor projects. This is 100 acres. I mean, this is a baby Audubon Park that we can make into something nice for those in Algiers, just on the West Bank, not just Algiers, but for the city as a whole. So my goal is, and my plans is to work to get something on paper with CEO in the city so we can get this moving forward, because summertime is almost here. The grass is going to continue to grow. There's no shortage on blighted houses. We need to get this started as soon as possible. And this is a perfect example. This would be, it's 4 to 5 feet now, to be 8 to 10 feet in 4 months. So we can prevent that from happening. That'd be great. Any last comments or any?
I'm sorry, and I did want to ask another comment. It was about the last page, and I literally just forgot to ask about it. Can you discuss with us, Director Davis, this potential investment in code enforcement that's mentioned on the last page? For example, if that money were able to be found, what would that do for the next year to help, especially including cases such as what was identified just now by Councilman King?
Oh, yes, sir, tremendously. We could dedicate those resources to other areas of the city. You know, as Councilman King just alluded to, grass grows extremely fast in the spring and the summer, and sometimes it just gets to the point where it's overwhelming and there's not enough resources, and we're limited right now about trying to keep up at that pace. So certainly any additional help that we could get, we could not only focus in the lower Ninth Ward, but in New Orleans, East Mid-City, West Bank, other areas of the city that deserve just as much attention. So we will welcome the opportunity to have them on board and help us eradicate some of the blight and overgrown lots throughout the city.
What do these numbers mean, though? 60 to 70 people, you'd be working with CEO Works to plug them into code enforcement, or what would you do if this money were available? How long,
We would take,
how long would
I
this
think
period
that's the
last?
combination of teams.
Yeah, that's our number. So each of our work crews in a year's time serves 60 to 70 people. So people come into the crew. The crews daily are about 5 to 8 individuals on each work crew. And as they continue through the vocational services and the job training services that we have, as well as working on the crew, we place them in full-time employment, and then that opens up a slot for another person. So one work crew can serve 60 to 70 people each year.
Are you suggesting the money would go through code enforcement or through CEO? Because it says invested in code enforcement. Is that the Department of Code Enforcement, or do you mean?
Ideally, it's a contract between CEO to provide the service for code enforcement. And so that cost per crew is $250,000 from the city to CEO to provide that service, which is the blight abatement and also the service to individuals who are returning home to New Orleans, which is, the job training and the job placement full-time, the career advancement training, that sort of thing.
So that might be for a year, and it would be putting crews to work in all 5 districts with the specific purpose of addressing blighted and blighted lots.
Correct.
Okay. I think that no one would disagree. We just have to find something like that. So, I mean, we have 3 members here who have blighted lots in their communities, and we just saw something that needs to be done. But, okay, we'll talk about that opportunity available. Okay.
And did we discuss on how often they get paid, the crews?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Our crews are paid every single day, so they get paid at the end of every workday.
That's a big deal. For somebody coming out of jail, getting paid $15 or so an hour, they get paid, it's 8 hours a day?
Yeah, it's 8 hours a day, 7.5 hours a day, 30-minute lunch for every single day of the week that they get paid. And we do that because we know that money, financial, is a huge barrier. Without that, I can't provide shelter, I get all of the simple things that I need. So we don't want to make them wait for a paycheck. We try to pay them every single day.
And that's about $112 a day, which is a big difference from what they were getting before. So we can make that happen. I want to ask my colleagues, let's work to figure out how to make this happen. It benefits everyone. It benefits the city and on different levels. It benefits the residents. So I appreciate y'all presentation, y'all coming today to discuss with us. All right. Any comments online? No? Okay, next we'll go to our next and final presentation, number 5.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We could have Ms. Stive come up and present on the NOLA Walk of Fame. we wanted to start, thank you for joining us today. And whenever you're ready, introduce yourself and you can start your presentation.
Hi, I'm Sarita Stab. I am the founder and president of Operation Restoration, located here in New Orleans. It focuses on helping currently and formerly incarcerated women and girls transition into society after incarceration.
Hello, my name is Robin Gaspard. I am the Development Administration Specialist with Operation Restoration.
Okay, thank you. So we're here to discuss the NOLA Walk of Fame. It kind of came out of nowhere, and I think it's a great idea. But there was some questions. One about funding, that comments were made how we get funded, but members of the City Council never, not by you, Ms. Dodd, members of the City Council never had a chance to discuss the funding, and that was a big point of contention for myself and some of my colleagues. So give us some background about the Walk of Fame, the purpose, and let's jump right into the meat of it, the funding and the steps to see if we can help on the council to make it happen.
Yes, so just want to ground the conversation. Robin will take us through the PowerPoint presentation. We can answer questions at any time. The reason that Operation Restoration is even involved in the NOLA Walk of Fame, one of the services that we provide at the organization is Operation Innovation, where we currently fiscally sponsor 31 other organizations and programs. So these are organizations that are doing community-based work, sometimes focusing on incarceration as well as any community improvement initiatives. And we've been doing this for about 7 years. So what we do is we help with infrastructure, the back office support, grant writing support, and just connecting people to the resources that they need. So when Mr. Miller approached us about the NOLA Walk of Fame needing fiscal sponsorship, we gladly jumped on board to help support him in building out the infrastructure, back office support needed to get the program off the ground. And the first grant that we applied for was the Wisner Fund. So that is how we are before you all today. And Robin will start us off on the PowerPoint.
So the NOLA Walk of Fame is the beginning of a legacy honoring the people and stories of New Orleans. The NOLA Walk of Fame was curated by Percy Miller and the advisory board to bring the vision to life. It's a public arts and cultural initiative that honors trailblazing individuals born in or significantly connected to New Orleans, celebrating their contribution in music, art, sports, education, civic engagement, innovation, and more. Set along Canal Street, the NOLA Walk of Fame features a custom-designed fleur-de-lis plaques that tell powerful stories of excellence, resilience, preserving the city's rich legacy while inspiring future generations. The mission of the NOLA Walk of Fame is to celebrate, preserve, and elevate the legacy of New Orleans pioneers by creating a permanent and interactive public space that educates, empowers, and unites our community. The vision to make the NOLA Walk of Fame a world-renowned landmark that symbolizes New Orleans' cultural richness, influences global conversations about innovation and heritage, and fosters a sense of pride and purpose among the residents and visitors alike. We aim to honor, inspire, and preserve, celebrating and preserving the legacy of influential individuals that were born in New Orleans in order to promote good things that are created here.
So before we get into the advisory board, just one thing we want to make sure to note is that Percy's idea of the NOLA Walk of Fame was really based in people from New Orleans not knowing who was born here, who has made significant contributions to global economy, businesses, sports, and all of the things. I remember going through this process initially and not knowing that a lot of the 50 inaugural honorees were actually born here in New Orleans because they are so connected to other cities that they moved to or that they lived in or became famous because of a craft that they have created. So his thought process is that if you tie people who have been extremely successful back to where they were born, that would inspire your kids and a lot of other people to say, hey, if they can come from here, they're born here and do a thing, I can also do the thing. So it was really about changing the perception of people who are born here. This initial slide for the advisory board, not going to read through this. You all have the pamphlet as well. But this was the initial advisory board that he put together to help him put together his first 50 honorees. So the first draft, the initial list, was actually done by all of these folks that are mentioned here at the bottom of this list. And as you can see, these are people that were born here, people who are significant or have significant impact. And then also at the bottom, the Office of Cultural Economy. After we created the first list, we went and had a meeting with the Office of Cultural Economy to show them the list to see if they thought we should add or remove anybody from the list. So in working with Lisa Alexis and her team, they made some changes to the list, and that is how you see the 50 individuals that we honored and inducted into the NOLA Walk of Fame.
Councilman Green, go ahead.
Yes, I don't want to, I guess I had to just ask a question. Was there any member of the city council ever consulted relative to the initial list?
So no one was consulted outside of the Louisiana Office of Cultural Economy, because this is something that he was going to do initially on his own. But in reaching out to Ms. Laverne Sony, she connected him with the mayor's office, and that is how the Office of Cultural Economy came in. So Councilman King and I have had long conversations around making sure that moving forward, when we construct the committee, the actual committee that would be doing the selections, that there's representation from multiple offices that are met with to decide moving forward who's inducted into the Hall of Fame.
I can't say anything other than that happens a lot with the city council. To be very honest with you, the agency that funds projects is many times the last to be incorporated into initiatives that need city funding. Now, I'm not putting you all on the I know it was already done.
We understand.
But it makes it challenging for me to go and explain to community meetings, for example, well, how did these people get chosen? And I just put up a plaque for Dorothy Mae Taylor, who, for example, the first black state representative woman, the first black woman to be a head of a city department, the first black woman to be a council member at large in the city of New Orleans. And if somebody had asked somebody up here, I bet you might have heard that kind of suggestion. But I know that, it's water under the bridge, but sometimes water under the bridge still created a flood. And I'm just telling you that that is what the issue is as much as anything else, especially when we were asked. I said, no, I didn't support WISMA funds being made available because we, as an agency, have a final vote on that and aren't incorporated into some of those processes. However, I'm willing to work with our council members if that's something that we wish to do.
No, we really appreciate that. I think initially when you have somebody of Mr. Miller's stature and you think about doing something, you're like, hey, I'm just going to do it all on my own and I'll figure it out. He was not adept with, hey, you might need to talk to the city. You might also need to talk to the mayor's office. He just really wanted to do a great thing. But as the ball got rolling and he had already done it, then these things happened. And it was something that happened extremely fast over, I think, a 60-day period. We were able to start working on it, make the connections to get the stones down and created, get the sidewalk approved. I mean, this happened over a 2-month period. And he definitely understands the need to have the city council involved moving forward. I know he's made calls to talk to a lot of people on the council to really discuss that misstep initially of not, hey, let me do a little bit more groundwork to make sure that everybody is included in the process. I think the other thing is that for a point of clarity, I think that people kind of mistaken what it actually is when it's the NOLA Walk of Fame. There are multiple places. There's, Walk of Stars along the river right now that recognizes New Orleanians for their profound effect on New Orleans. His idea was more in line with the Hollywood Walk of Fame and thinking about people from New Orleans, only born here, may not have made an impact on New Orleans per se, but have done amazing things in the world, in the country. And his thought process around that was, again, making people aware of who actually was born here and the greatness that has come from New Orleans, that was born here. So one of the things we've also been talking about is how can we connect with the walk that already exists, and Congressman Carter brought that to our attention to make sure that all people are getting recognized in the same way, because to your point, Dorothy May Taylor is someone profound who should be, on the walk. There are a disparity with women who were recognized in the initial 50. So in essence, his plan is to add another slate of all women at the time. So the reason we're trying to get this moving and pushing it to get it forward is that we can make sure that it's balanced and equalized in the way that it should have been initially.
Thank you, Councilmember Green. I had that same question myself, but I'm reading ahead because we can read through this ourselves. I'm looking at the nomination, selection, and approval. So there's a $250 application fee, and then once someone is selected, they then have to pay $35,000?
So if you're familiar with the Hollywood Walk of Fame, that's exactly how it works. It's a nonprofit foundation, so the money that's collected for each star that's placed is for the upkeep and maintenance of the actual walk. So sometimes people that are placed on the walk in Hollywood are controversial. People defame them, they destroy them. So that money would then in turn go back into the maintenance and the upkeep of the actual Walk of Fame. In addition to, we've been in conversations with what's the name of the museum? The museum that's being built directly across from the convention center,
Yeah, no, I'm very familiar with that museum, and I don't know that it is definitely going to be built, but I know they are planning for it, and they're still trying to gather money. My question, though, is, so the $35,000 that's for upkeep and maintenance, does that roll to the city who is doing the upkeep and maintenance, or who's being paid to upkeep and maintain?
So if there's a contract with the city to do the upkeep and maintenance, then that's who would get paid to do the upkeep and maintenance and the replacement of it. But currently, right now, we have paid to have the stars made, put down. That has all come out of the NOLA Walk of Fame budget. So the thought process would be, if it is city money and the city is maintaining it, then of course that's who would be paid to maintain the sidewalks.
Okay, so the initial 50, did those initial 50 people pay the $35,000?
So no, those were his inaugural inductees, and that's how it will work for the year. But if you see going down, if the $250 application fee is a barrier, there are opportunities for that to be waived, as well as paying for a star. So in Hollywood, some people can't afford to pay for a star, and someone comes in and sponsors that star for them, so it can actually go down. So there's not a direct tie to if a person couldn't afford and they have been selected, that there wouldn't be some work to make sure that that star went down.
So who paid for the initial 50? I guess that's my question.
The NOLA Walk of Fame.
Okay, and so are you asking the city for an allocation of funds from WISNA? Is that what this presentation is about? Are you asking
So we already
money?
put in and filed for the grant application about 3 months ago to Wisner for the grant for the NOLA Walk of Fame.
And how much money is that?
We put in a request for $500,000.
That then would go to these people going forward, or is that to pay off the initial 50?
So it would be to pay off the initial 50. It also would go into what we are creating, the curriculum. So there's also a dual component where we've been working with NOLA Public Schools to get a curriculum created. We've been in constant conversation with multiple school systems so that people can also be taught the history as well as the stars. There's also opportunities. We're adding QR codes, so when people are walking, they can actually see the history. And there's also a documentary that is in the process where they're going to be shot for every person that is inducted into the Hall of Fame, that there will live in the museum. So what I was referencing earlier about being in conversation with them, they already have an online catalog where you can go and see some of the works. So we want to be able to add the online catalog in. One of the things that Percy wanted to do was to build a museum, but for us, it didn't make sense to build a museum if this museum is already trying to be funded and in the works. So we've been in constant conversation with them about getting a hallway, much like the Smithsonian and different places, where we would be able to operate the Hall of Fame inside of that museum. So working with them to actually fundraise. So they have offered a spot on the board to Mr. Miller, and he is going to join the board to also support, to help raise money for the museum so that the NOLA Walk of Fame can live inside of the museum.
Okay, currently the Walk of Fame, though, is on a city sidewalk.
It is.
That is currently being maintained by the city, or no?
I mean, it's currently being maintained by the city, but, you know, we've done everything to get the sidewalk, you know, prepped, and there are 4 plaques that have been placed thus far. The 4 are Miss Aaliyah Chase, Ty Graves, Lil Wayne, and Avery Johnson have been placed and buffed and put in. So currently, we have been working with the manufacturer as well as the city to make sure that they have been installed.
And is the city installing the plaques, or is it some other third party that's installing them?
So there's a third party, but the third party is through the city.
Okay, so I guess what I'm just trying to figure out, if the city is installing them, the city is maintaining them, et cetera, then we're essentially taking Wisner money to pay back the city for the work it's already doing, or no?
No, I mean, the plaques themselves, there's a budget that I can share with you. We have a pretty detailed budget. We got funded through the Gold Ring Foundation initially. We were able to raise some money, a small amount. So what we've done is we put together a prospectus and a very detailed budget where all the costs go, and you'll see exactly what we're paying for versus what the city is paying for. So currently inside of our budgets, the installation for the first 50 were not in those initial costs. But moving forward, there is an assumption those sidewalks at the time had to be worked on for the Super Bowl. So the thought is that if we were able to get them installed while those sidewalks were already being refurbished for the Super Bowl, it wouldn't be an additional cost for us. But there has not been a commitment from the city to move forward and pay installation costs. So we have moved installation costs to our budget, not maintenance, but installation costs to our budget, and then the fabrication of all of the plaques.
Okay, yeah, I think we would all like to take a look at that budget to see exactly how much each plaque costs, how much the city has contributed so far as installation and maintenance, what maintenance looks like, how much maintenance is. It's not that, I don't think any of us are against the Walk of Fame, it's just making sure that we're good stewards of money. And so if I don't want to pay the city for something it's already doing with city money. That just doesn't make any sense.
So yeah, today we have not received any money from the city, so anything would be, we've counted it as in-kind, a donation for the installation portion.
Right, so that's my point. If there's some way that the city can take a portion of this that lessens the burden on you all, then that might be something to look at rather than a direct allocation to you that then the city somehow is recouping.
Yeah.
Councilmember Moreno.
Hey, good morning.
Good
Nice to meet
morning. You too.
So I'm just trying to get a clarification on this. So on the initial 50, for those, how many participants or sponsors for the participants or for the stars have been paid for by the participants or the sponsors?
No one. So Mr. Miller wanted to do the first 50 to launch it as an inaugural induction at no cost to the honorees.
And he covered the cost of all of them? Okay, great. So this additional money would just be for moving forward?
No. So the goal is not for him to have to cover anything. It's a nonprofit foundation. He has pledged $1 million of his money to go toward the $6.5 million that we need to raise to do everything that needs to be done for the NOLA Walk of Fame. But if there's a preference that the new $500,000, if obtained from the Walk of Fame, goes toward any new individuals or new work going forward, then that's not an issue either, because as I spoke to Councilman Green, the curriculum is something that he's really passionate about launching like ASAP inside of the schools for the start of the new school year to coincide with the placards that are already down. So there's multitude of things that it can go toward outside of the plaques that were already paid for and put down.
So the 6.5 million is for the 50, or is it for beyond that?
So it's inclusive of the 50, the curriculum, the museum online and offline, the documentaries that need to be filmed, and also staff, because he has no staff currently. So Operation Restoration has been shouldering a lot of the workload for it to make sure that we get the infrastructure and everything set up for him, but there's no staff associated with the NOLA Walk of Fame.
Got it. And so he provided 1 million toward the 6.5. How much more have you raised beyond the 1 million?
So 1 million over a period of time is what he's pledged. So currently, right now, what he's paid out of his 1 million is the cost going forward. And I think right now we've spent about $356,000 has been spent to date, and that is on the manufacturing of the plaques and, putting them down, the installation. And then we've had 2 fundraising events, and then the event that we had to honor the honorees. So that has been $350,000 thus far.
So you've raised 350,000?
So we've taken the $350,000 from his 1 million thus far. We received a grant from the Gold Ring Foundation for, I think it was around $25,000. And from the fundraisers, we've raised another 25 or so.
So you've raised 50 in the fundraisers, 25 with the fundraisers, and another 25 from Mr. Goldring, and then you've collected, I guess, a partial payment of the $1 million pledge.
And we're in conversations currently right now with the congressman about adding in some appropriations money from the federal government. So we're looking at about $1 million or so from them that we're asking for. And also a few other foundations of the honorees that have been honored. We've had some lunches and conversations, but a lot is steeped in these plaques actually going in the ground. So we've had some, I don't want to say stalling, but I mean, for lack of a better term, it's been taking a while to get the plaques down, to actually see the visual of what's going on.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Green?
Well, I will tell you that I know that it's going to sound like I'm getting on the bad side of you all, but I want to tell you there's no bad side. Boy, am I opposed to charging $35,000 to a community leader who might get recognized. Boy, am I opposed to charging the family of Dorothy Mae Taylor, who's the only example that I'm using is because she was recently honored. Where would their family come up with $35,000? And I also have an issue with I have an issue with a couple of things. Very honestly, all of the details have to be worked out. But I can't tell you what I think the reaction would be of the New Orleans City Council from the community if we said that in order to be on the NOLA Walk of Fame, you have to contribute $35,000. I know that there are waivers, but there are so many people who have done things. And yeah, a lot of them, for example, were maybe in the past. I mean, people have done certain things, but I can't imagine, for example, going to the Tureau family and say A.P. Tureau, who was a civil rights lawyer who got so much done. Well, if your family wants to have him on the Walk of Fame, they need to come up with $35,000. He's deceased. Very honestly, his family doesn't have tremendous assets. That was the one thing about him, that he worked where he could have been an attorney making more money. He worked in the area of civil rights. And I guess I could go on and give examples of people in education, for example. I mean, people after whom schools are named, who did tremendous work in our city, who are from our city. I don't know how you would get to the point where you would charge a nomination fee, and I think that needs to certainly be thought through. What would be the exception? How could it be done as we look over our communities and our musicians? We as a city council just passed something recently saying our musicians were not getting paid well enough, and many of them are living in poverty, so they have to get paid $200 an hour. Well, that was for gigs with the city of New Orleans, but that doesn't change the fact that somebody who's a tremendous contributor to our economy as a musician and who has spoken so well for us may not be named Marsalis. It may be named somebody who has a connection in the community that we want to recognize, but he's not going to have that kind of money to do it because he's chosen to be a musician. So just something to think through. I mean, I think that if you're going to do it, in my opinion, and you're going to make it like a New Orleans Hall of Fame, that at the end of the day, you just do it. And I don't know if I think that you charge people $35,000 to be part of it. It would be better to have fundraisers every year, in my opinion. 50 times 35,000 is, some maybe, I don't know what the 175. No, wait, 1.7 million. It would be better to have 1.75 million. To me, it would be better to have a gigantic fundraiser or try to get public money than to charge 35,000, because I think that you then begin to look as being elitist as opposed to trying to incorporate people who've made tremendous contributions. You have too many categories here that have people engaged in our city who don't make that kind of money. And you also exclude a lot of people who are maybe passed on who should be on that Hall of Fame, in that Hall of Fame, but their families couldn't afford it.
So again, this is draped around the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The reason that the Hollywood Walk of Fame has lasted 50 years or so is because this motto that we are employing is one that has helped them to sustain outside of city council funds or state funds or anything of the sort. So they tried initially to go through the city council, and the Hollywood Walk of Fame was funded through the city council there, and it was not sustainable. They got money from the state, and it wasn't sustainable. They actually charge $75,000 per star now, and they induct maybe about 7 to 8 people, in a given year. But the money that they are able to get from the induction of the stars helps to take the burden off of the state or the city. And sometimes there are individuals, you receive sponsorship. So as you say, for fundraising, cost doesn't become an issue. So for instance, one of the larger ones, Etta James, got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and couldn't afford the $75,000. And Denzel stepped in and paid it. So other individuals with large, opportunities or who also have been inducted can come in and sponsor, or businesses can sponsor, anybody can sponsor. The other piece of it is that while we are talking about people in New Orleans who have made noticeable impact on New Orleans, or long-lasting impact on New Orleans, this particular honor is for people that are born here who have made a national and global impact. So it's not just about like local folks who have made an impact locally on New Orleans, but people like Dorothy Mae Taylor and AP Turo, they have a national significance that would not be able to afford, as you say, their stars. So we have opportunities where people are inducted as honorary members, and we also have opportunities, as I said, that these stars can be sponsored. But to take the onus off the city and the state, and for this to be a sustainable, freestanding nonprofit, there has to be some type of income or revenue that comes in outside of fundraising. And we're taking the model directly from Hollywood to New Orleans.
You're going to have a tough time using Hollywood with me based on the 50 people that I saw.
I'm not a fan either, but that's where it comes from.
Based on the persons that I saw who were recognized within the first 50. I mean, I don't know. I think that my intention when I see congressmen, for example, incorporated into it, and when I see rappers, for example, who are incorporated into it, I recognize that we're looking at their impact on the nation. But I think that we just need to be careful, in my opinion. Give me an example of someone in education who would be recognized nationally. And I'm not doing it to put anybody on the spot, but when I look at the categories that you have one called community leadership. Mm-hmm. So that's community leadership. Then they may not have had any impact on the nation, and they might not be recognized. Give me an example, and if you don't have it, that's fine. I mean, maybe somebody else.
Well, I mean, whether you
Put it
agree
in
with,
education or community leadership that is recognized on a national level that might be on it.
so whether you agree with it or not, the person that jumps to the front of my mind is Walter Isaacson. You know, the charter schools coming here, that model has been replicated. So whether you agree with the schools or not, or whether they work or not,
You're saying that's in the education area? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, he's on every national stage talking about education, written a book, he's an author about it. So when I think about an impact nationally on education, he may be the first person that jumps to mind for me.
And that's fair. You don't have to be, I asked that. I appreciate that. That's a fair assessment. Community leadership?
Yeah, when I think about community leadership, I would think about, he's,
No. I'm telling an example.
no, I'm saying I know he's like multiple, like multiplicative, but like in his later part of life, when I think about, community leadership, I would think about, I don't know if this is a great one, huh? I was thinking about Mark Moria, like his work with the Urban League and how they're doing things community-driven now. But I mean, I don't feel like that's the best example. I would have to think about it later.
He's already on it. So
But I'm saying he would be someone who I would think about now if you're doing a community leadership. Leona Tate, they've made a national impact on the world with the integration of the schools and with the foundation and, just all of the things. So, those two are maybe the first two that jump out.
That's fine. Fair responses. I'll tell you about Leona Tate. That's why I would have a problem with a $35,000.
I know her very well. My hope would be that she would
That's
be...
a great example of what I'm
But
trying
my
to say
hope would be
relative
is
to
that she would
nomination.
get in with the next slate of all women who, for the rest of this year, the people that will be inducted, it's at no cost.
Leona Tate as well as the other three as well in the next slide.
Okay, just food for thought.
Thank you.
And I don't want to belabor the point that's being made, but can you specifically, so we can have this to bring back to our colleagues and those who are watching, what is the specific acts from the NOLA Walk of Fame from the City Council?
So the specific ask was a consideration of the Wisdom funds for the $500,000. That was the specific ask to go toward the larger $6.5 million budget.
And that is a one-time act?
Yes.
Okay. So here are some things that I'm just thinking of that may be problematic moving forward. When you get elected officials involved, this council changes every 4 years. So now you have a different council in the next couple of years that may say they want totally different people on the Walk of Fame. So would they have a say-so because of the potential monies given by this council?
So if you go to page, when it talks about the committee will include, so there will be a designation. So the hope is that when we convene this initial committee, the bylaws, the rules, all of the things will be written by this group that is put together and maintained. The hope would be is that it would be a separate body because the actual people who are being suggested to be a part of the Walk of Fame will come from nominations through a process online from the community as well as whomever. So anybody would be able to make a submission of getting to add someone to the Walk of Fame. There'll be a screening process meeting certain criteria, which will be developed with this committee as well. We have a framework already set up, but it's not fair to say, hey, this is the framework that we use. We'll use that framework as a guide to say, hey, this is how we selected the people that are on there currently. How do we do this moving forward? So really building out the infrastructure, the processes of the committee. We've already had conversations with the Hollywood Walk of Fame where they will share with us their process to see if that's something that will work for us. And then we'll have all of the, bylaws and officers on the board and all of those things. So once this committee is conducted, you will have a designee from the city council, and at that time, we can decide what position the person from the city council will hold. So is it the chair? Is it the person that's over the community development committee, or whomever that person is in that chair?
And Councilmember Moreno has a question. Before I say, turn the mic over to her, just a few things that also come to my mind that I've heard may be problematic. One, living elected officials. Deal with politics, you have some people who are on there who others may say, well, why is this person on there and not this first person or that first person? Different people with different political ideologies get on there at the dismay of others. There are a host of people who I'm like, well, why is, for instance, Reese Witherspoon, and you kind of explained it, people who are born here but have really done nothing of significance to bring New Orleans forward. I didn't even know Clyde Drexler, basketball player, was from New Orleans, but because I don't know of anything he's done in the city of New Orleans other than being born here. Well, I've got people like Jacoby Jones, who was born and raised in this city, played in Nord, played for Abramson, went to Lane College, Super Bowl champion, and would not have won. The Ravens would not have won a Super Bowl had it not been for his heroics. Is not mentioned, but we have a Clyde Drexler who is not taking anything away from Clyde the Glide, but has done nothing for the city of New Orleans. So I just think more input from whoever it may be, and maybe this board is the answer, to determine maybe people who are born here is not the right answer because they're born here and they have no influence on where they're born, but they have influence on where they give their time, their money, and their efforts. And I can think of a few more people who have made it and made millions and billions, but have not given 1 minute of their time or 1 penny of their money, and they're on the Walk of Fame, on the Walk of Fame. So that getting around of the living elected officials, I know that is a concern for some. How would the council involvement look moving forward 4, 5, 20 plus years from now? And really looking at people who are not only born here, because Ruby Bridges wasn't born in New Orleans, but she has done more than a lot of people and that's no knock on you all, but
No, it's just his vision was to focus on people that were born here. That's his vision.
I understand. That's just my 2 cents from afar. I'm not trying to tell Mr. Miller how to spend his money or make a selection. I'm just looking at Ruby Bridges, Reese Witherspoon. Who's done more for New Orleans? That's my. I don't think he's from here. Who's that?
Who? Yeah, he was born at Turo.
He was.
He was born here.
I mean, maybe,
listen.
you know, look.
That's the question I was
Moreno, I'll let Councilmember Moreno have the floor.
Yeah.
And look, nothing against Reese Witherspoon. I think she's a great actress, but Patricia Clarkson, she was born here, and she's definitely somebody who was left off, and she is constantly back in the city, always promoting the city of New Orleans, Emmy Award-winning actress, thanking the city every time she goes on that national stage to get these big awards. She just brought one of the movies she just made sure that there was a premiere of her movie right here in New Orleans, of the Lily Ledbetter movie that she just did, which is really amazing. And so I just wanted to mention Patricia, but also on the funding piece, I just want to circle back on that because I thought that there was a shift, and instead of asking for Wisner money, instead for you all to try to get a grant from the Culture Fund, which I think, to Councilmember King's point, would make more sense for that board to be the ones to consider this type of grant instead of getting it from Wisner. Is that still on the table?
So that was a decision that was talked about, I guess, amongst everybody else but us. So when I spoke to Councilman King, he said that was kind of the recommendation in the lane that we should kind of like focus on and shift on. But again, like when we put in the grant for the Wisner Fund at the behest, like not realizing the city council has to give the Wisner funds, and the Office of Cultural Economy would have to give those funds, or the mayor's office. So the recommendations coming from each body to go to the other body and get it, I was telling Councilman King, is like where we are right now. So we're not adverse of whoever decides to fund it or contribute in any way, because we know that this walk will have a tremendous impact on the city and bring tourists, and the city will benefit regardless of whoever, funds it or gives money to the program. But that wasn't something that we had ever considered, getting the money from the Office of Cultural Economy or those grants. But, it's not off the table if there has to be a shift. But we were here talking about the Wisner grant that we put in for.
Got it, okay.
All right, any other questions or online?
Oh, and I just wanted to say, Reese Witherspoon, her dad is a graduate of Tulane Medical School. So she spent the early years of her life here in New Orleans because he was in med school and graduated from Tulane. But to your point, Patricia Clarkson is someone that we wrote down and will definitely consider for this next slate of women.
Okay, so I think moving forward, it would have to, do we do a motion or something to bring it to a vote before the full council? I don't.
Bring what? What's the motion?
Well, not here. No, not here. Not here. I'm just saying in the future so we can move forward with the request of monies. No, I'm not saying, I'm just trying to get so Ms. Stibe can know what's the next step in the process.
Councilmember King, may I suggest something? I specifically asked for a budget, so I would like to get that budget that you all have before we consider any allocation of Wisner funds. I think that would be beneficial to get to the entire city council, so we can see exactly budgeting going forward, timelines going forward. I think you said there are 3 plaques down. 4 plaques down, so what's the timeline on getting the rest?
So that is something we actually should find out today because our 15 plaques are completed and done. We're just waiting on the additional ones to be installed.
I think I would be more comfortable if I had more information about milestones, deadlines, budget, et cetera, as we continue this path forward.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting I'm voting on anything today or the next council meeting. I just want this meeting to be, we just met and we talked and nothing happened, nothing came out of it. So the next step would be, would you all get us some
Yeah, we'll definitely send it to you guys. Y'all have it by the end of the day along with this presentation electronically. Councilman King advised for me to come to the committee meeting to kind of have this conversation because initially we were going straight to the larger body. So I wanted to really work out these questions prior to.
So you heard some of the comments or concerns from the 3 council members up here. There are 7 of us, of course. I would say get us that information and we'll determine what's the next step moving forward if we should vote on it. I don't know, I don't want you to come in for nothing, and I don't want this just to be a hamster wheel where nothing gets done. Either we say yes, we say no, but ultimately we need to move forward on it.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
I appreciate you guys.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to request also more information on the makeup of the committee. When I see names, when I see things like S's behind entrepreneurs, business leaders, community members, and I only see specifics as in one council member and partner, Jasmine Thomas, for example, I see a representative, but I'd like to have a definition of what you mean by and what the numbers are on the multiple categories. I don't want the council member who it might be to be on a group that includes 29 people because we have 17 entrepreneurs on it that have been identified. Let's be specific as to who's going to be on the committee without names, okay?
Yeah, the reason, Jasmine Thomas.
Okay, no, that's not my issue. My issue is more, Jasmine Thomas is fine.
No, but I'm saying the reason is because she had a similar idea maybe about 6 years ago to honor people in the Walk of Fame, so we wanted to make sure that we honored her being a member of the team.
I don't want to get off of the point of what I have no problem with that. I have no problem with one representative, with one member of the city council, and with a renowned New Orleans historian, kind of, even though I'd like to know more about that. I don't want the committee to be weighted heavily in one area where we don't know that that's going to be the case. So I'd like to know, how many are we talking about? 2 entrepreneurs, 2 business leaders, 2 community members? What's the size of the committee?
So we weren't looking at the initial committee being over 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so you can say how many it would be in those categories.
We can.
Councilmember Green, where's that list? I see the advisory board.
The induction process. On the right, the lower right, you see it?
No, but I'll find it. I don't want to.
Impact?
I'll find it.
Okay.
I'll find it. So there are any online questions? Comments, concerns? Okay. Well, thank you.
Please,
you all.
Thank you for the presentation.
Absolutely. At this time, make a motion to adjourn. Second by Councilmember Harris, Moreno/Harris. All in favor? Aye. Motion has passed. Meeting has been adjourned. Thank you.